Hi guys. Today I'm here to talk to you guys about some pranks, prank ideas. And everybody likes pulling a good prank here or there. I don't care if you are Mother Teresa. She probably likes to pull good pranks sometimes. So, I thought to myself, when someone is irritating you, or if you have a problem with a neighbor or a roommate or a boyfriend or someone, Um, it's kind of amusing to think about what it would be like to get back at them, right? Like every once in a while somebody thinks, like I wonder what I can do to make this person really angry. Some of these pranks are innocent, they're not bad, and some other ones are kind of jumping on the borderline there. One of the pranks I've come across before um, is you take a bottle of toothpaste, um, and this kind of works better if you live with the person. You squirt the entire bottle out and you replace it with anything. Like you pour Listerine in there. Um, I've heard of peeing in there, like peeing in the toothpaste thing. So when they pour out and they're brushing their teeth, it doesn't taste very good. Yeah, takes a whole new meaning to having yellow teeth. So there's that. Or you can fill it with like something that just does not taste good, but like a liquid in a liquid form. So you guys can get creative with that. But be nice. Don't, put like hydrogen peroxide in there or something, so their teeth will be foaming. They'll look like they have rabies. So don't do that. Um, Another one I've heard of, I've actually had this done to me. And it was one of those where I didn't find it funny at first, but once I realized, um, what was going on, I found it kind of amusing. With a phone bill, like when you look online at your phone bill, for example, let's say I have US Cellular, and I go to my account and it'll show your bill amount. You can have that amount texted to you through your online account. So what some people I've heard of doing is they enter in your phone number on that account, and they got to do is type in a number and they hit send, and it'll say this elaborate message like, this is US Cellular contacting you to let you know your bill of like $565.10 is due by this date. And what I had happen to me was somebody texted me that, and the bill was due like 2 days later. So I was kind of like, whoa, like I freaked out at first. And then I realized someone was pulling a prank on me, and then it was funny. But whatever. Um, this is something I did. The next prank I'm telling you about. This is something I did I thought of this in my head when I was like 5 or 6. I felt like pulling a April Fool's Day prank on my grandparents, and this is one of the innocent pranks. It's not bad. It's pretty funny actually. My grandparents loved to drink pop. Like and they're still like that. They have pop every day, multiple times a day. My grandpa at the time loved Mountain Dew, and my grandma loved Pepsi. So I said to them, I was trying to be a nice little girl and go up to them and be like, hey guys, I can get your pop for you at dinner. And they were like, oh, that's great. So I went and got their pop. But what I did was I poured the Pepsi in a glass, and then I poured Mountain Dew in a glass. And then what I did was I poured the Pepsi back in the can. I'm sorry. I poured the Pepsi in the Mountain Dew can, and the Mountain Dew can in the Pepsi can. And then when they were asking me why it was opened, and when I gave them their pop, they asked it why it was opened. Um, I made the excuse of, well, I was gonna pour it into a glass, but you can come up with your own excuse for this. I don't remember exactly what I said, but basically I had a pretty good excuse for a 5-year-old as to why I didn't pour it in a glass for them and left the can open. So they just went along with it, and they took their drink, and they instantly reacted very oddly, because they were like, when you're expecting something, you're accustomed to that taste. So it's kind of a funny prank if you can like pull off an excuse for why the can's open. Um, yeah. So this next one is kind of one of those pranks that are sort of evil, but it's alright because it happens. If you cut out a condom wrapper You take the condom out, throw it away, or do whatever you want with it. I don't care. And then you replace it with a balloon with like some lubricant on it, or like a lotion, like a non-scented lotion, so they don't smell it and they're like, oh, this is a prank, you know? And then what you would do is you put it um, back in that wrapper and you super glue the stitching part shut so it looks as if, you know, you can just still tear it apart. And in that case, you still can, if you don't super glue the entire thing. But that's a very particular prank. I've never had this done to me. So obviously I don't really have a problem. So I figured to myself, if this prank happened to somebody, that would suck it all because you're just using a balloon, you're not using a condom, but you bitches be making babies, so that's not my business. Another one is I've done this to somebody before, that I worked with a long time ago. If you know anyone who smokes pot, wait a few days after they do it. Like, let's say like you're with them and you find out that they've been smoking lately or something like that, and you work with them. This only works if you work with them. Okay, FYI. Um, you kind of let them know, like give them end up giving them a false tip and let them know, like, hey, just so you know, like, we're gonna have a drug test at work, just so you know. I heard from somebody in management, you could say, or a friend of management. Just make it seem like it's really legit. What I did was I texted this girl I work with just to screw with her, because like we joked around all the time. I texted her and said, "Oh hey," and I had known she had just smoked a couple days before. I said, "Hey, just so you know, we're having a drug test at work tomorrow. They haven't told anyone, they haven't announced it, but I'm just letting you know because I've heard about it." She texted me instantly and was like, "What? Like, I've been smoking the past few days. Like, what am I gonna do?" And she freaked out. And then I let it go on for a little while and then I ended up letting her know, like, dude, I'm just screwing with you. Like, we're not having a drug test. Like, we don't ever have drug tests at my work. Um, that's the key to that prank is to act totally cool and natural. And it works perfectly if you don't smoke either. It has to be kind of like one of those where you don't do drugs or anything of that nature, or anything where it's not going to look dumb, like where you could get caught too. Um, this is a good one. Like if you have a problem with your neighbor, um, if you have a problem with your neighbor, a good prank to do with them is call the cops on them and make random excuses as to why you're calling the cops. For example, you could say, I hear a dog barking, or they're having sex too loudly, and it's disturbing my other personality who's a religious nun. I don't know, you can come up with anything. Or perhaps, um, you're hearing My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion being blasted too loudly because, for God's sakes, nobody wants to hear that shit. I'm pretty sure that's enough probable cause for an arrest. Um, so yeah, those are the pranks that I thought would be pretty clever, and I hope they are. If you have any pranks that you've done or have had done to you or that you can think of, let me know, because I'm always up for a good prank idea. I mean, I don't pull pranks very often, but it's funny to know if I wanted to, I got more ideas. So, if you'd let me know that, that'd be awesome. Thanks, guys. Bye.